Hello, everyone, and welcome to End of Life University podcast, where we share real talk about life and death. I'm your host, as always, Dr. Karen Wyatt, and thanks for joining me here for episode number 289. Today, in just a moment, I'll share an interview I did with Tim Roberts, who's the founder of Echobox Memory Vault, and we'll be talking all about how that app works to help people save their memories digitally, and how it's being helpful for people who are nearing the end of life. Before that, I just want to give you one last reminder. The Laughter Yoga webinar, which got rescheduled from February, is coming up this Wednesday, March 10th. And if you're still interested in signing up for it, you can go to the show notes for this episode at eolupodcast.com. Look for episode 289. There will be a link there for you to register for the webinar if you're interested. And finally, I'd like to thank my latest supporter on Patreon, Carrie Andrews. Thank you so much, Carrie, for stepping up and making a monthly contribution to help keep the podcast on the air. I really appreciate your generosity. So now, without further ado, we'll get on with the interview with Tim Roberts from Echobox. And remember to stay tuned after the interview. I'll be back with a few takeaways and to say goodbye. So here we go with the interview. Today, I'm very excited to welcome my special guest, Tim Roberts. Tim is an artist, musician, app developer, idea guy, and dreamer who mainly grew up in Calgary, Canada, and still lives there now with his wife and two daughters. Tim created a digital legacy project called Echobox Memory Vault and found a developer who helped him turn the idea into an app. And we'll be talking all about Echobox today during our conversation. And if you're interested, you can learn more about it at the website echobox.ca. So Tim, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you very much for having me. It's a blast to be on here.
Yeah, I'm really excited to learn more about Echobox, and we'll be explaining to the audience all about what it is. But I wanted you to start by just telling everyone the story of how you got inspired to create Echobox, because it sounds like this wasn't exactly something that had been in your mind for too long before this inspiration came to you.
Right. Well, yeah, certainly not. We didn't see it coming. I guess it started in about 2015. I saw a YouTube video about a gentleman in the UK named Stan Beaton. Apparently, he had been listening to the sound of his wife's voice on their answering machine. She had passed away, I believe, earlier in about 2003 or 2004. And since then, it was a great source of comfort for him to hear her voice. And, when he was feeling down or when he just wanted to kind of reminisce, he would play that answering machine message. He went as far as to stick with the same service provider so that he could keep that recording. And I guess at one point, because of them revamping their system or some sort of internal update, it required all their users to record a new greeting, which unfortunately for Stan, that meant he lost the sound of his wife's voice, which obviously upset him tremendously. And the video I saw was actually showing the retrieval of that recording. Virgin Media had a whole bunch of technicians working on it, and they returned it to him and played it for him. And so you saw the look in his eyes when he recognized his wife's voice. And of course, it was very moving to him, for him. And so I'm kind of that kind of person where if I'm watching a video where someone is hearing for the first time or seeing color for the first time or taking their first steps after an accident or something, it affects me a lot. And so this one kind of grabbed me, and I felt glad that he got the recording back, but I also felt like it was a bit of a shame that this gentleman was, of all things, hanging on so dearly to a snippet of kind of random, you've reached the Beatons, please leave a message, sort of generic message. And I just thought, today's day and age, there just should be a way for us to be able to wrap our arms around such things without kind of worrying about the social media norms that are out there, whether that's talking about, sorry, my alarm just went off there. So I can't remember exactly where I was. But Karen, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
I'm just going to restart that sentence because my phone alarm went off, and
okay.
it threw me off.
Okay.
But anyways, so we saw how much that meant to him, and we kind of just realized watching this video that, it seems like technology's kind of let us down. You can always put stuff onto social media, but at the same time, for people that are a little wary about their privacy, people that don't like being advertised to, or the idea of people commenting on your posts, even up to the point where you don't even own the posts that you post onto some social media networks or platforms, we just thought, what a shame. And so after a little bit of thought, at first we came up with an idea called Mother's Voice, where I figured I'd go, from care home to care home or hospice to hospice and record seniors just talking about their kids, or possibly talking about reading out loud a childhood story and recording that for their loved ones. And that just bloomed into, why just a mother's voice, maybe fathers too, and then why just their voice? Why couldn't we make it recipes and stories and pictures and songs? And it just became this idea that we figured, hey, this could really go somewhere, although we don't know anything about technology and we're not really strong business people. So it kind of just sat there on the side burner for a while. And then it got a little bit of traction. I was able to spend a little more time at home with the girls making art. And I started putting a little more thought into it. And we entertained the idea enough to start talking to some app developers. And luckily enough, we kind of matched up with a local team here called Terraform. And they basically took this big, colorful, round idea that we really didn't know what we were going to do with, and gave us all sorts of options how we could try to trim it into an app without including the things that we didn't want, with advertising and, privacy concerns and all that sort of stuff. So that's kind of the genesis of it. It kind of got the ball rolling, and it's been, I guess, 5 or 6 years now. And the last 2 years have been, in active development. And just recently it's really started to take off. So we've gone from pushing it to now we're kind of trying to hang on to it. We're at least running alongside of it. And now we're just trying to see where it goes.
So it's so interesting. I love that origin story, and hearing the story of Stan, and I can imagine the pain that he was in. I can even feel it. It's poignant at the thought of losing that little recording, like the one thing that was maybe helping him hold on or keeping him going. And so what a powerful inspiration for you then to go on to think of how can we help people in the future to make sure they don't ever have to lose those precious little snippets of someone's voice.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I've often had those little ideas of, boy, wouldn't it be nice to have a list of, your father's 10 favorite songs, or your mother's, 10 favorite movies or recipes or anything like that. And it just seems like, it's all random, and it's kind of easy to not really consider grouping all those things together until it's almost a necessity. And at that point, the game has changed a little bit, and it's not so happy-go-lucky. So we just thought, yeah, what a great way to try to, preserve these little types of things for people. And we've just received so much encouragement that, it would have been terrible not to try to make something work. So yeah.
And I know you said Echobox is an app. So tell us a little bit about how that works. Is it like an app for the smartphone, or
Thank you. Yes, it's
laptop or whatever?
Right. Well, it's funny. At first, we thought it was going to be a website, and then we got a piece of junk mail that we got really worried about at first. That said something like, "Your app idea is really going to be a hit," and we thought, "Oh my goodness, who's onto us already?" And then that actually pivoted us into thinking, well, I guess it should be an app, because that way it's kind of in everyone's pocket. And so right now we have developed on iOS. So any listener that has an iPhone or an iPad will be able to go into the App Store, and we're free to download. And in 2021, our main assignment is going to be to develop on Android, which will expose us to pretty much double our audience to see if this is something that they'd like to do.
Yeah, which is something I had to learn, that the two phone systems are different enough that you actually have to develop different apps in order to be able to put the same content on each kind of phone.
That's right. And we were so wet behind the ears. I mean, we were just, we had this idea. We didn't realize that we would have to either go one way or the other with it. And our developers even mentioned there is such a thing as a hybrid language, which you could kind of get away with one project performing on both platforms. But it just sounded like that was a little bit risky in case something went wrong. If there was any internal fixes that needed to happen, it would kind of get away from us really quickly. So we had to bite the bullet and go one direction first. And so, yeah, we were developed on iOS, and in 2021, we should be available on Android.
So talk me through it a little bit. If I want to use Echobox, so I would first download the app from the App Store. I have an iPhone, so I download it from the App Store. And then what happens when someone opens it up and starts to use the app?
Sure. Okay. Well, yeah, you download it for free from the App Store. It'll show up in your phone. And basically, at first, it'll ask you to make a user profile just so, we have some contact information in case we need to email the user or, let them know if an upcoming change or anything like that. And after you've made your user profile, you go ahead and you can explore the app. More than likely, the first thing a user would do would to create an Echobox. So Echobox is the name of the app, but inside Echobox, you make yourself an Echobox. You can also host other ones if you want to, capture your parents' story or catalog your children's, day-to-day favorite things. But typically on your first experience, you download it, make yourself a user profile, make yourself your very first Echobox. And inside that Echobox is where the free realm is, where you can you put in some basic info like favorite smells and favorite sounds, your birth date and birthstone and that sort of thing. There's also the music section, the TV movies section, and the food section, where you can list favorite songs and favorite bands, and you can put links on there in case there's a YouTube video that you would wish to kind of reference in your description. And so in the free realm, you can kind of start to punch out a little bit of, what makes you tick, what has put a smile on your face, what foods you really love, what desserts and things like that. And once our members are at that point, they can kind of decide if they like the idea. Then we have a shop, which not only lets you add, for a couple of dollars a pop, you can basically add topics or add media to the topics that you've already got. Or there's an option to just get a 1-year subscription, which is, I think it's $6.99. So we tried to make it as cheap as possible. But that's pretty much the most expensive thing that's in the shop. And if a member decides that they want to have premium status, then it brings over all these other topics like childhood and animals and work projects and outdoors and childhood, all these sorts of different things that you can add to the realm that you started out with just kind of in the free zone. And so I think the total is for about $6.99 American. It opens up the app, and with all of the titles and descriptions and links and photos and audio recordings and video recordings you can make, I think it opens up something like a possible 24,000 plus opportunities for someone to put down just these little tiny nuances and little favorite things and whatever might come to mind, like favorite quotes or favorite family stories or, trips that you've had or favorite hikes, all that sort of stuff ends up in one little realm. And, while we're alive, we get to share that with our friends and we can add to it. And then, of course, at one point down the road, it is meant to act as, a support for our loved ones and a vigil for us, and yeah, a digital legacy for our loved ones to enjoy.
Wow. So I would start by creating my own Echo Box, and then that would be something I could work on over time. It sounds like, and add to it and put new things in as they come up, and something I'd be creating over time, which is just preserving some of the things that are really important or special to me.
Right, absolutely. Yeah, it's almost like a digital scrapbook of sorts. I mean, as days go by and we mentioned things offhandedly like, "Oh, I remember that trip. That was amazing," or "Oh, this song reminds me of being back in high school," or "Oh, I love that smell of the roast cooking. That reminds me of when mom and dad had the fire going and a big dinner was underway in the winter," or whatever it might be. The whole idea is to capture these things very casually. It's not a last minute thing. And so obviously for $6.99, you have the whole year to do that. At the end of that year, you have the option to pay another $6.99 and keep kind of adding and rearranging things. Or if you're kind of happy with, what you've done, then there isn't any further charge. And all of that information remains protected, private, and only available to the contacts and family and friends that you've approved access to that information.
Yeah, so that was one question I had, is how do you pass it on to other people at some point?
Right. So the passing it along is kind of just it's through the contacts that you make on the app. So let's say if you and I were close friends, you would go onto your phone and you'd kind of make your Echo Box. I'd go onto my phone, I'd make my Echo Box. And inside both of our Echo Boxes, there is an outbox where if I put your user ID into the search bar and I enter it correctly, it should populate with your name. And then I can invite you to view my Echo Box. Access to an Echo Box is by invitation only, and it's not automatically reciprocated. So we're trying to make it as private and personal as possible. So I would have to invite you, you would accept it, and you'd have access to look at mine. And then presumably you would invite me to yours. And then while we are alive, we can check out each other's stuff and check out what we're throwing in there and adding in there. And then when one of us would pass away, nothing would really change. We could still go in there and access that person's Echo Box. And we've made it so that, it's going to remain the way that the person wanted it to be. We can't comment on it. We can't even like it. And so it's really preserved in the form, in their own words and in the style that they wish to leave behind.
So if I made my children contacts for my Echo Box, they wouldn't be able to like come in and add their own information to my box. They can view it and look at what I've put there, but they wouldn't be able to change it or put something of their own into my box.
Absolutely. It's a look but don't touch. And we did that so that people can be comforted knowing that, when the time has come and they've passed away, there won't be any sort of we all have had a few people that have passed away, and I've had a friend on Facebook, and it's kind of a shame because not only is the subject matter kind of here, there, and everywhere, but it's also people comment all sorts of random things, and you never know down the line how it might change and who might say what. So we tried to make it as much as we could of kind of like a make your own highlight reel and leave it behind, and so that even though your closest ones that love you and might want to say, "Oh, I remember that too," just for just to kind of keep it the way that we wanted it to, we just left it to be look but don't touch.
And then another factor I think that you mentioned, no advertising, because I know that's become a big point of concern on Facebook. Like a lot of us early on went in and completed our profiles and wrote down all the things we love and what our interests are and our likes, only to discover that information was being used to target advertising to us. And so I appreciate the fact that you said that's not how you're going to be using this platform.
Absolutely. We figured, not being techie people and not, this was our one sort of time at the plate. And we thought, if we're going to be making an app, then let's just cut out all the garbage that seems to be causing all these problems nowadays. I mean, whether it is what we were talking about with people commenting on your stuff, or whether it's the advertising that has, it's noticed that you've written a couple of things about Thailand, so now all of a sudden you get offers for flights to Thailand, and you kind of start scratching your head. And when you join up on these platforms, you have to sign away basically your ownership of any of these items that you're posting, and it just goes on and on. I mean, the privacy concerns, or right now how Facebook and Australia are butting heads over the legitimacy of the news that might go down on their news feed. And so we basically said, it's pretty simple to cut out the advertising, cut out the comments, cut out the news feeds, cut out the likes. I mean, even likes, it's becoming a very unhealthy thing, especially for youth. They post something that they think they'll get a whole bunch of likes, and then if they don't get the amount of likes that they were anticipating, it affects them emotionally, and it's just terrible, terrible, terrible. And we just figured, if it's that revolutionary to come up with something that is both technological and wholesome, first of all, that's kind of sad that it's not available to us already, but it really kind of brought into focus, maybe, I mean, it was a very heartwarming idea, and we want to provide this sort of protection for people's memories, but we also saw an opportunity to do things the right way. And shockingly enough, it just doesn't seem like there is a platform out there right now that is willing to provide this sort of service without a catch here or there. And so if that's, the name of our game, then so be it.
I love that. And, right now I'm sitting here thinking about the fact that when my mom died, I inherited her huge cedar chest, which is full of things that she wanted to remember, even things about her own parents, and full of actual mementos and items that I have no idea what to do with. And
Right.
in order to honor my mom's memory, I'm trying to keep all of her memories and her special things going and maintain them physically. But right now I'm in a house where I have enough room for this chest to fit, but there could be a time when I need to downsize. And it really occurs to me, so now I have my mom's chest, which is full of her memories of her grandmother. What are my kids going to do? What are they going to do when
Right.
it's my turn to die? And then not only this, but I have a whole attic full of my memories of things. And it seems like we're at this point where it's just not practical to try to maintain too many physical mementos of things that have happened in our lives.
Right. Absolutely, it is. And with everyone trying to, hold on to what is important, and at the same time, try to downsize and try to make sense of our world. It's just to touch on the idea of physical hand-me-downs and heirlooms and keepsakes. We never really thought about it at first, but a really good way, I mean, you could, depending on what that heirloom is, if it's an object or if it's a piece of writing, we realized afterwards it's kind of like a post-design rationalization, but people could definitely catalog all of these things and keep them safe. I know it's not really a perfect substitute for having that physical object in your hand, but you can title it, you can describe it. If there's a possible link to put some more information in there from the web somewhere, you take a picture of it, you can make a little audio recording of what it means to you, and even a video recording of it. And, these details are safe from fire, they're safe from flood, they're safe from theft, they're safe from loss. And so at the end of the day, we are providing a new way, I guess, to to catalog these things and to keep them safe. And it's all part and parcel of kind of what we anticipated doing. It's just another kind of perk to the direction or the many qualities that we're continuing to discover with the app. And so, if people can use it in that sort of way, then then that's great.
It's interesting though, because one of the things that I inherited was my mom's china set of china, which she got just after she got married. And it was never not a fine or very, very expensive set of china, these dishes. And they're now all worn and cracked. And I have a box of all of them that
Right.
I'm holding on to. But you know what I really wish I had? I wish I had her stories about the china and when she first got it and how she felt about it and all the meals that she served on it, and how special it was. Like, I wish I had those things in instead of, maybe, or at least in addition to, the physical plates and bowls, which I will never use. They'll sit forever in that box, but to have the stories that would go with them would be so much more valuable to me.
Right, right. I guess that's the traditional way we're used to, right? We're handing down things, and you can kind of like hold it, you can look at it, smell it, and kind of remember what you can. But there is that other level that hopefully now that we've got this technology and that we can make certain things and record ourselves, all sorts of stuff, maybe it is a new sort of way to appreciate these things without necessarily having to have them physically, in the attic or on the shelf in the closet, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Well, tell us about some of the responses that you've had to Echobox. I'm interested to hear about that, about the feedback you've received.
Sure. Well, it's been super exciting. It's almost like, it's hard to believe only 7 months have passed since we launched. And so, yeah, the response has been really great. At first, of course, with COVID being around, we couldn't have our launch party, which was something we were really looking forward to doing. We kind of quietly launched amongst our friends and family. We didn't really market all that much first because we wanted to get this feedback. And so, yeah, it was a short little bloom at the beginning, and the rose-colored glasses were on. We thought that the general appeal would just take off because everyone, has memories to save. Um, but it didn't take too long, and we realized that, at first, as soon as people started kind of getting the sense that we were talking about saving memories for down the road when you pass away, and it seemed like a light kind of went on, and people seem to kind of not close off, but it's like it's a topic that they don't really want to talk about, or they're not comfortable with fully addressing. And as much as we're trying to really make it all about life and movies and adventures and stories, it just seems like certain people some people certainly just seem to kind of, yeah, that's a nice idea, but I'm not really sure about how, it just seemed to be kind of like a mixed response to it all. And so there were a couple of months there where things got a little quiet, and we kind of thought, what have we got ourselves into? And luckily, at one point, I was able to talk with a gentleman named Glenn Skimming, and he's involved with recreational therapy and quite high up in that realm. And he, I think we were going to talk for about 10 minutes, and we ended up having about an hour-long conversation, at the end of which he was almost more excited about Echobox than I was, and he was calling it a revolutionary tool and how we have to get it tested, and we have to get this into the hands of people that are in palliative care and end-of-life care and dementia care, all sorts of different things. And so that really kind of put some wind in our sails, and it seemed like almost that week something kind of changed, and I was talking to all sorts of people all around the world. It's kind of a new experience to me, but I should probably do some shout outs and thank yous to Demetrius in Texas, and Patricia in New York, and Sabrina in London, and Tracy in Vancouver. We all had these conversations where they were so generous with their time, and they allowed me to kind of explain it. And these people were kind of in a variety of fields, whether it was end of life care or a CEO of a hospice. And one of them was a professor at a college. And so it just seemed to kind of keep us clicking along to the point where by the time late November, early December came around, the constant trickle of people coming into the app and checking it out had started to grow. And then I'm not really sure what happened when 2020 became 2021, but we suddenly got some media coverage, and now we're on a resource called Dementia Map. A gentleman named Dave out of Portland runs that. And so it's kind of like a free resource directory for people that are suffering with dementia or their families. And believe it or not, just last week, we were talking with the BBC, who wants to do a story about Stan and his inspiring us to create this technology. And all of a sudden we have, over 1,000 users. It spiked really quickly, and it's just, it just seems to be taking off really quickly here. So there are people that have used it kind of in retrospect. If they've lost a loved one that's already passed away, they will make an Echobox for that loved one and kind of start putting all the pieces together through the experiences that their family or friends can share, and the memories that they can kind of accumulate together. So there's been a couple of cases like that. A couple friends of mine really want to keep track of what their kids are up to and what their kids like, because, it changes throughout the years. And so I guess in general, we are still pretty young, and only having 7 months behind us, we don't really have too many of the stories of, people joining up, filling up their Echobox, and them passing away, and then their family being supported with all of that information and material. So it's certainly not something that we want to rush, but we know that we are in this for the long game, and we're trying to take the high road to get there.
I wanted to ask another technical question.
Sure.
I have an aunt and uncle who are in their 90s, and so they actually do have an iPad which they can open email on. But
Right.
I'm wondering, is this something? Would I be able to help them with an Echobox? Would I be able to open the Echobox on my account and then help them find things? What they might be lacking are photos online that they can upload, but maybe together I could help them do that. Is that possible if I start it with my name on the account, but it could be for them?
Absolutely. So we've designed the app so that one member can join up, but they can host multiple Echoboxes. So you would be able to, download it for free, have your own Echobox. You could create one for your mom, or create one for your dad, or create one for your kids or a friend if they weren't on iOS. Or sorry, yeah, if they were on Android and weren't on iOS. And so by that design, it also enables a care worker to have multiple patients' Echoboxes on the one device. And we've designed it so that Echoboxes can also be transferred from one device to another. So in the event where, let's say, if you had a friend that wasn't on iOS, but they really liked the idea, you can add an Echobox to your existing app. They could tell you what they wanted to put in it, or whether it was your parents or what have you. And at some point, you can decide, if your friend ended up getting an iOS device, or when we develop on Android, whatever the case may be, you would be able to transfer that box over to your friend so that they can carry on with it. Or in the case of a care worker, or, a death doula, somebody that's involved in palliative care or dementia care, whatever it might be, they can create an individual box for each patient. And then regardless of the circumstance, if the time comes, if that patient's family member or friend happens to be on Echobox 2, that care worker can take the Echobox that they've built with that patient, transfer it over to that loved one as, a gift, or just, just something that they know that they would like. And so, one person can host multiple Echoboxes. So if that addresses your question, yeah.
Yeah. That's really nice to know. And it's just occurring to me, we have boxes full of videos and things of when our kids were little, and it would have been really nice to have something like Echobox to store them in, so they were readily accessible, and you don't have to have a different camera for each type of video that you've collected, because we have VHS, we have, all kind of different formats for all these videos that we've collected. It would be really nice to have them all in one place online digitally, so we could actually watch them again.
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, for sure. And it goes in a lot of different ways. I mean, right down to if you're struggling to come up with a birthday idea for a friend, well, if they've filled out their Echo box to any sort of measure, there should be all sorts of like little ideas that wouldn't necessarily come to mind otherwise. So it kind of, there's the macro and micro level where you could be talking about what really means a lot to you, what experiences have kind of changed your life and your philosophy on different things, and the deep and meaningful stuff. Or it could get right down to like something light and fun, like, hey, you know what, my friend's birthday is coming up next week, I'm really struggling to come up with an idea. Let's check out her Echo box and just see what kind of stuff is in there for me to kind of investigate and see what I can come up with in a different
Mhm.
sort of way.
Yeah, that's a great idea. And you were mentioning that EchoBox is helpful right now while we're still dealing with COVID and social distancing and isolation to a certain extent. So, how do you see EchoBox playing a role right now?
Excellent question. I will tell you, at first we really kind of thought, boy, this was the last year we should have tried to do something like this just by circumstance. Um, Even through going through the process of trying to get the attention of people in the health with it, they are so busy in a regular year, never mind this year. How busy they are, and so trying to get anyone's attention has just been quite the task. But we realized after a while that we actually had developed something that when you look at it in a certain light, this is the perfect way to stay safe while we're staying apart from each other, and we can really have that sort of sense of connection. We can be together. On a daily basis, I can check what my friends have put on there, and it's kind of in a different scope than the social media that's out there right now. And instead of kind of like the day-to-day grumbles that people post, or the highlights that they put on there, it's really kind of like the more meaningful stuff. Even if it is just a favorite song, that's the song that they've considered their favorite for their whole life. And so by virtue of what the people want to put in there, you can really sort of enjoy the memory and the depth and all of that sort of what makes a person tick, what puts a smile on their face, without actually having to be in the same room with them. And for however this lasts, at least we're offering a little bit of color and light and sound for people to enjoy each other with, while we have to kind of play it safe and stay by ourselves.
Yeah, and it sounds like it's really fun actually to do, like to create the Echo box and think of things to put in it and go back and just review your own life and remember things and what has been really important to you. It sounds like it could be a lot of fun, but also therapeutic to create the Echo box.
Absolutely, and I think that's what we're trying to address with our testing. We've just been encouraged so much to see whether this, because some people's day to day, whether it's just someone who's living at home, or if they're in a hospice, and the routine is people are so great at their jobs, and there's so many people doing great work out there. But eventually, the routine kind of gets to you. And we just thought, if somehow, if this can improve the quality of life for somebody, or if it can just make them kind of reminisce in a new way and get that cognitive function happening, or get them talking about things that they haven't talked about before, or have one story lead to another story, lead to another story. It's just good medicine all the way around. And we're just, hoping that this kind of thing catches on. And boy, would we ever sleep well at night, knowing that, people are treasuring each other's memories in a new way. It would just be great.
Yeah, and when I think about it, each time an elder from our families dies, we really end up losing a treasure trove of information, that person carried with them but didn't get the chance to record or share with the rest of us, and we end up losing it. And this gives us a way to capture some of that and preserve it for us, so that maybe down the road we'll find answers that we're looking for, or find it to be helpful to us.
Absolutely. Well, that's for sure what we're hoping for. My father-in-law, well, when we first started chatting about this idea, he seemed to get it right away. And the way he put it was, it's a way to answer your grandkids' questions that they never thought to ask you.
Mm.
And as soon as he said that, I just kind of I thought, yeah, you get it for sure. Because once I've said it before, once it's too late, it's too late. And any manner of, I mean, as light and as trivial as it might seem today, tomorrow down the road, that favorite song or that favorite recipe or that favorite nature walk might mean the world to somebody who wants to just kind of put themselves back in your shoes and have a moment with you even though you can't be there physically anymore.
Yeah. Wow, that's so beautiful. I'm sitting here longing and wishing that I had had something like this for both of my parents, and how much well, I'd love to hear both of their voices again. Like, just like Stan Beaton, I totally relate to that. That the longer it's been since someone dies, the more the sound of their voice, your memory of it starts to fade away. And I can see why he clung to that little voicemail recording so tightly, or answering machine recording.
Absolutely. Right. And I think that's what kind of, it was definitely what got us started. And, I still feel horrible for Stan. I mean, I feel great that he got that recording back, but it just kind of, opened our eyes to the idea that he should have so much more other than that. And it shouldn't be so hard for us to come up with something like that. I mean, geez, we're so smart. Humans are so smart, and we can create all sorts of things, but somehow we missed this one. And so, I think that's the gap that we're trying to fill, somewhere between, that treasure chest, the physical treasure chest that you mentioned that you have, and the social media platforms that are out there right now that can kind of cater to this idea. We're trying to go right in that gap in the middle, and I think there's room for us to do it.
Yeah, and add in privacy and safety, and that's really valuable. Well, I know that you've been able to come full circle. You mentioned to me that you got to have a conversation with Stan Beaton, who originally inspired this idea.
Yeah, being able to talk with Stan over the phone was just simply amazing. I think it was in January. Was it January, December? And I had tried really hard to get a hold of him. I looked him up. I used, there's a couple of articles and a couple of videos about him because of that story. And I was able to kind of find the community he was in, even the road he was on. I phoned the grocery store that was near his house because I figured, maybe he's a bit of a community celebrity, and they'll be like, "Oh, hey Stan, how you doing?" And of course, they were like wondering, who is this Canadian and who is this Stan person he's asking about. Um, but luckily enough, a local media company put me in touch with him, and it was great. We chatted about his wife Ruby. We chatted about his father, the travels the family had taken. We talked about Spitfires, sports heroes, miniature train sets, politics. It was great. It was as if I was talking to an uncle or a grandpa. It went on, and then at some point it had to come to an end. He had actually paused his. He was watching a soccer match or a football match, I guess they call it over there. And we chatted it up, and we might have the chance to do so again. We just have to wait to see. Luckily enough, the BBC got interested in this story, and so I guess we're likely going to have a Zoom meeting with Stan and I, and we'll have to see where that goes. But yeah, it was amazing to be able to thank him and to be able to to let him know that, the love that his wife and he shared is still active and out there and doing things in the world. And it was amazing to kind of let him know that we were busy at work trying to do something that they had inspired together.
And it's so interesting to me to think that all along your paths were destined to cross in this very meaningful way that would inspire you to create something new in the world that never would have occurred to you if you hadn't seen that little video.
Absolutely not. I don't think it would have. I mean, yeah, all the sentiment in the world and all of the, the character, who you are and what you value and all this sort of stuff. I don't think that would have turned into something without that one little sort of nudge from Stan, and seeing kind of, just how much we mean to each other, and how we can kind of cater to that a little bit more.
Yeah, and even for you to recognize the preciousness of the tiniest little things, the tiny little moments that we have, one little message on an answering machine, and how those things from the people we love can become so dear and so meaningful to us.
Right, absolutely. And I've been pretty lucky in my life, my grandparents all generally lived a healthy, long life. My family has enjoyed a fairly healthy life. I've lost an aunt. She passed away of cancer, and just recently an uncle as well. So I've certainly, experienced loss. And a friend of mine, when, back about, boy, almost 18, 19 years ago now, passed away. But I think in general, I've been very lucky. And, I'm in a spot now where, my parents are around and they're enjoying the grandkids and all of that. But there is that sort of understanding that, these little tiny tidbits of things, as trivial as they may seem today, they carry so much weight. And you never know how much value you're going to get out of these things if they're simply not there, or if you don't choose to ask, or if they don't choose to tell you. So, I guess we're just trying to make a trusting, private, easy, happy-go-lucky way for people to enter things that, they really love about life, with all the color and sound and flavor that they can, so that yeah, we can kind of embrace that forever, for lack of a better word.
Hmm. That's so beautiful. And so, Tim, do you have your own Echobox? Are you working on it now?
Oh, I certainly do. Yeah. And to tell you the truth, even I'm finding it so much more fun than I thought. I thought, okay, well, let's provide this service for people, even though I'm not the biggest sort of, scrapbooker or collector. I wouldn't say that, the idea was a neat one, but I didn't know if I would kind of really kind of latch in and enjoy it, as far as entering the information goes. But my goodness, I couldn't believe how your mind sort of travels. You start entering one thing and you realize, oh well, there's these other, like, three other things I have to enter in there. And then by the time you've kind of rounded off your story about, whether it was a recipe or whether it was, a memory of a favorite sporting event or childhood memory, anything, it just seems to bring on more and more memories. And so, before you know it, I mean, I've been listing all sorts of favorite songs. And it's kind of funny because you kind of evaluate your life and you kind of think, like, using songs as an example, trying to list them in a manner of favorites is kind of hard to do, because you have to really think about, did that song over there mean more to me when I was 15 than this song over here means to me now, even though I like it more now. So you end up having this sort of inner discussion with yourself as you put down and you list all your favorite things. And piece by piece, you really do start to enjoy the fact that you're making this realm. And it's just icing on the cake that if you can, reach into, your friend's world or your parents' world and see what they've put in there, then it just becomes more and more interesting. And,
Yeah.
so we hope people like it.
Well, it was, you just reminded me of a story from my days in hospice when we had a young mom in her 30s who was dying of cancer. She had two children, and she wanted to leave something behind for her kids, but she really felt that she'd been a failure in life. She had gone through lots of difficulties. She'd been in jail several times and had problems with addiction, and she felt that she was a terrible mom and had had a terrible life, and she
Uh-huh.
wondered, what am I leaving for my kids? But her sister-in-law came and helped her make a scrapbook of her life. And by the time she got to the end of the scrapbook, she turned around and said, "Oh, look at all the wonderful times I had. Look at this trip I took. Look at this thing I made. Look at this time when I did something." It was all these beautiful, positive moments from her life that let her turn all of that story upside down and say, "No, it hasn't been a failure of a life. I've had an amazing life. And here I have something I can leave for my kids to show them that." And it was the most amazing transformation that took place for her as she had this chance to relook at her life from a different perspective. So I'm picturing that Echobox, even more profound than just sticking photos in a photo album. Echobox has so many more potentials than that, since you can save all kinds of, of digital memories in it.
Oh, for sure, for sure. That is an amazing story. I'm so glad that that her sister came in, and they were able to kind of work on that project and get that sense, because that's exactly the sentiment we're working with. When you're building your own Echo Box, there is simply no wrong answers. You cannot argue someone's favorite song off of their list. You can't argue someone's favorite recipe off of their list. It is simply what they love. It's not going to get tarnished or changed in any way. And yeah, that story of yours right there is kind of, that's exactly what we're hoping to provide. And time will tell, but so far we've had a lot of really good advice. And if we just kind of keep the engine turning over, and keep our chin up and try to get through 2021 and develop on Android. If we can supply or provide a platform for people like that lady to feel comforted by putting all of those great things about their life into one place, then we've done what we've set out to do, for sure.
Well, I feel excited that this is a tool with so much potential. So I'm really happy to spread the word by interviewing you here for the podcast. And Tim, I wanted to ask, I know it's an app, but you do have a website, right, that I mentioned, echobox.ca. So is that the best place for someone to start who wants more information about it?
Sure. Yeah. For information, head to the website. It'll kind of, there's, a demonstrative video that describes the app. There's a little bit about our history and a story about how Stan inspired us. So someone who doesn't want to just jump right onto the app right away can kind of get the Cole's notes from the website. And so, yep, that's echobox.ca. And otherwise, if they kind of like what they see there, then as long as they're on an iPhone or iPad, then they should be able to find it in the App Store just by entering Echobox, or they might have to enter Echobox Memory Vault to get the right app.
Okay. And then, Tim, what if someone listening wants to do an interview with you for something? How can they get a hold of you? Is through the website also?
Yeah, we have all our contact info on there, and I am more than, I am eager to talk to anybody who wants to talk about Echobox. We're just excited that it's a topic that is interesting people. So please, by all means, if you want to give me a ring, our number is 403-992-3246. If you want to give us an email, you can either email us at info@echobox.ca or feedback@echobox.ca. But yeah, just in a general sense, if you want to kind of check us out without contacting us, the website would be the best way to go.
Okay, perfect. Well, I'm really excited about what you're doing. I wanted to let listeners know I'll post links to the website if I can, a link to the app. I don't know if I can post that or not. But then also a link, you've provided me with a link to that the video that you watched originally of Stan Beaton, I'll post that. I think that people may want to look back and see what gave you your inspiration. And then a news story that was on the news in Calgary. I'll post all those in the show notes so people can get even more information.
Oh, that's amazing. Thank you so much, Dr. Wyatt. It's a blast to be able to talk about Echobox, and for you to reach out and give me the opportunity to talk about it with you on your podcast is amazing. So thank you very much.
You're so welcome, and I'm excited about Echobox, and I'm going to go download the app so I can start creating my own Echobox. So thanks a lot for sharing this information with us, Tim.
Oh, well, thank you. I hope you like it, and thank you for all the hard work you're doing for the people in your care.
All right. Take care. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Tim Roberts. I really enjoyed learning about Echobox, but particularly the origin story and how Tim was inspired to create Echobox, the story of Stan Beaton, who had cherished the recording of his wife's voice on the answering machine for years and years after she died, only to lose it one day and be devastated that he could no longer listen to the sound of her voice. And I thought it was really touching that Tim heard that story and just knew he needed to create something more permanent and long-lasting for us to leave behind digital memories and legacies for our family members. And I think it's really a beautiful idea, and I'm very excited about it and eager to start creating my own Echobox. So I hope you found it interesting as well, and I'm wishing Tim lots of success with Echobox in the future. So with that being said, remember there will be a new episode next Monday. Every Monday I come up with something to share with you. So tune in each week. If you enjoy this content, please share it with other people. Leave a review wherever you happen to listen to podcasts, because that's a great way to expand our community of listeners and people who are working to change the way we manage the end of life. So until next week, remember, we're here for love. So face your fear, be ready for whatever comes your way, and love each and every moment of this life. Bye-bye.